Okay, I need you to sit down for this one. I came back from watching Terrifier 3, and I feel like I'm slowly starting to like this series. I know it's weird coming out of my mouth, and I know it's weird for you to hear this, but please listen in. I do not like blood and gore. Like, that's not what I'm into. So it came as a surprise to me when I watched Terrifier 1 for the very first time on Monday, and I was able to get through it without throwing up or stopping. I got through that and I said, if I can survive Terrifier 1, I could watch Terrifier 2. I watched that on Thursday. It was even worse than the first movie from a gore and blood standpoint, but I got through that. So I said, okay, I can go to the theaters and watch this. By the time I got here at the third film in theaters, I'm like, okay, I can see why people don't like it. 100% justified. I understand it. I don't like the same aspects of the film that you don't like. This is the profile and the legacy of the film they have etched, so there's no turning back. From this point on is just overstepping boundaries without trying too hard not to cross the line of what is too far. And in this film, I found myself asking, is this too far? While at the same time respecting Damien Leone as an artist for like wanting to even take it that far. Like, it would be very easy for Terrifier to just be another slasher film like Scream or something like that. But no, you know when you're going into a Terrifier movie, you are coming for a bloody experience. And this is the goriest Christmas movie of all time. But let me talk about it more in depth. Yes, I did say Christmas movie because I think when it's all said and done, Terrifier 3 will be considered a Christmas film. It is thematically based during the Christmas season. Literally, the first scene is Art the Clown dressed as Santa Claus doing a home invasion. Mind you, the first scene is probably the most controversial one. Like, people are talking about the shower scene, and that was definitely the nastiest one, but the most controversial scene was the first one, maybe even like a little bit later on. See, because Art the Clown has done many things to many different people. If you could think about a brutal way to kill somebody, Art the Clown has probably done it. But one thing he has not done in the last two movies is kill a kid. And I thought maybe this is a boundary that the director will not overstep. He won't go as far as killing kids because no director goes that far. I feel like as a filmmaker, like that's almost the point of no return for a lot of people, killing kids. Well, in my head going into the scene, I'm like, okay, Art's not going to touch the kids. He's going to leave them alone because we didn't see him touch the kids in the last two. I mean, outside of Sienna Shaw's brother, I mean, he hurt him, but he didn't kill him, you know? But no, the first kill, and I mean the very first kill in Terrifier 3 is a child. Now, bear in mind, this was off screen, but they're in the same room. You can hear the sounds. It's very implied. And then they do show the dead kid's body afterwards, but they didn't show the act. And I think this is where Dante Leon draws the line. Like, he will not show the act of killing a kid. And for most people, just the fact the kid dying is enough for them. And I understand that. So understand, if you're walking into this film, you are walking into this. Because this is probably enough for some people to never want to watch it. And I understand that. And listen, if Art the Clown ever kills a kid on screen, that might be enough for me too. Terrifier 3 does follow the events of Terrifier 2, which was Art the Clown being decapitated by Sienna Shaw and then rebirthed by his first victim, Vicky. He and Vicky then go on to tear up the town, wreaking havoc in search of Sienna Shaw and her brother, who did survive the first and second film. So listen, I know people say that it's just blood, it's just gore, there's nothing else to it, but no. These people are over-exaggerating, or they've never seen Terrifier 1 or 2. You can say you don't like the story, that's fine. You could even say the story is very baseline, not intricate enough, doesn't have enough emotion into it. Maybe it gets a bit scattered in 3, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm sorry, after watching Terrifiers 1, 2, and 3 in the same week, I refuse to let anybody tell me that this has no story. It does have story. There is lore to Terrifier. You need to watch all 3 films to understand the lore. If you jump into Terrifier 3, not watching the first 2 films, yeah, you're going to see blood and gore and think that's all it is. But no, there is a very back and forth, cunning relationship between Art the Clown and Sienna Shaw that has fans coming back to watch and see what happens next. Sienna Shaw has become the final girl of the series, and, you know, she's grown on me, honestly. Now, mind you, her acting isn't going to win her any Oscars, not that it would have won her any because it's an NC-17 film. But it is good enough to be believable. Like, the acting is not poor. Art the Clown is one of, if not the biggest reason I'm returning to this film for the 4th chapter. I have not seen every horror movie under the sun, but of the ones I've seen, and of the slashes I've seen, I can say, unequivocally, Art the Clown stands out as the most diabolical, yet intriguingly dark and humorous horror slasher villain I've ever seen. I don't think people understand how hard it is to pull off a character that doesn't speak. Yeah, obviously Jason Voorhees doesn't speak and Michael Myers doesn't speak. But they both hide behind masks and they're very stoic and they're very matter of fact. They're there to kill you and that's it. Art the Clown wants to have fun with you first before he kills you. It's almost like Freddy Krueger in a sense, where Freddy taunts the people before he kills them. He hops into your dreams and he toys with you before he kills you. It's fun for him. Art's of that same vein, but what makes him stand out, as opposed to him being like Freddy, is that he's a silent character. Art never says a word, ever. Everything Art does is through facial expression and verbal body language. That's it. He just doesn't come in and just kills you. Art expresses joy, art expresses sorrow, art expresses just distaste and evil, and everything is just wrapped into one. For instance, in one point, Art the Clown walks into a bar where there's a guy dressed as Santa Claus. Art is so overjoyed with emotion to finally meet Santa Claus. And none of it comes across as fake or disingenuous or like he's about to stab you. It looks like he's legitimately excited. He sits on his lap, he's pulling out toys, he's playing with his horn, he's clapping. It's honestly like so warming and kind of like makes you want to see more of Art just being a good person. You know he's not, you know he's gonna kill Santa, but it wants you to see, you want to see more of it. You start to ask yourself, and I think this is what makes Art so awesome, is that from time to time, you ask yourself, is this person the exception? Will Art not kill this person? You know, Art's going to toy and play games, and that's just who, but like, is this the person that he lets go? The fact that he's able to convey this much emotion without speaking is incredible to me. That, in my opinion, puts him over Jason and Michael and Freddy and Chucky and all those guys. They don't have as much character as Art does. I'm sorry, they don't. Like, I see why he has a cult following. I see why. It warrant the depraved murders you're going to see in this film? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make it okay. It just makes it entertaining enough for me to sit through the rest of it. For the good I've been talking about Terrifier 3, it is not a perfect film. I talked a bit earlier about how there is story to Terrifier and the lore that comes with it. Terrifier 3 adds on to that, but it also adds very unnecessary elements that makes it almost kind of Firstly, of all the people in the Terrifier series, he will not kill Sienna. He can smash her hands all he wants and whip her all he wants and do all the terrifying, torturous things he wants to her, but he won't kill her. And we still don't entirely know why he's holding out. And while the film is trying to portray like he is trying to kill her, it's becoming very apparent by the third movie that he is not trying hard enough. Another element that I hated and I think almost ruins the movie in some aspects is Vicky's inclusion. Vicky was the main character in the first film. She was Art's first victim. She came back in the second film at the very end, very minor role, but played into the third film, which she had a vital role again. But this time she's working hand in hand with Art the Clown. Number one, she talks, and in some ways, she's talking for Art in this movie. It takes away a lot of that suspense and some of that intrigue that Art has when you have a mouthpiece for him. It soils the appeal, and I feel like that was not needed. For plot device reasons, I understand why, but still, I didn't think it was necessary. And then they try giving this rationale that Art is possessing her or some demon is possessing her and now she is trying to possess Sienna through the body and vessel of Vicky through it. Like they include this whole thing was thrown in this movie. It was not in the first two. I thought it was very dumb that they just threw this in at the last minute to try to make this make sense. They basically wanted a reason for Vicky to be there and they created one. I can't help but think this film would not have been any worse off if Vicky was not there. As a film, it is still very decent at best and extremely hard to sit through. You have to have a really, really strong stomach to get through these films. And while I'm still sitting on if I think this is better than the second one, I can say that if you like Terrifier 1 and 2, you will like Terrifier 3. I'll give Terrifier 3 3 out of 5 stars. Much like Terrifier 2, I think there are more flaws in this than Terrifier 2, but there's elements that you can find enjoyable if you see past the blood and gore. All you're going to see is the kills, then you won't like this, and I understand it once again. This movie is not for everybody. This movie is actually for the minority of people who can sit through it. But it is an experience that I think anybody who has a strong stomach should see at least once. That's my first long-form thoughts on the movie. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Let me know. Talk more soon.